Welcome. This is Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. No, it's not. It's Uncle Sugar's Magic Circus. It's Men of a Certain Age meets the Marine Corps. I'm joined by my friend Keith Kelly. I'm joined by my friend Sean Basile, Gunnery Sergeant United States Marine Corps. Today we're going to do part 2, intel stuff. So Sean, tell us, why or how, or what was the events that brought Sean Basile into the Marine Corps? Let's start there.
All right. I enlisted in the Marine Corps in 2004, between my junior and my senior year.
Christ, I feel old.
So a big contributing factor was 9/11. As a high school student, all I wanted to do was join the Marine Corps and be part of that invasion in Iraq. So I actually entered the Marine Corps in 2005, and I had no idea. No one in my family was part of the military. So I had no idea what I was getting into, and I thought everybody in the Marine Corps were just infantry. I had no idea that there are other jobs. And if it wasn't for my mom and my recruiter, I wouldn't have been steered into the path of intelligence. And when they initially brought that up, my recruiters kind of describing it as, you're going to be doing infantry-like things, but imagine it's like James Bond. And I'm like, that sounds way better than the infantry if I'm doing James Bond-like work.
How many times have you heard that story?
So guns and James Bond.
Everybody thinks you're going to be James Bond.
Yep,
I'm going to intelligence.
That's great.
I got a trench coat.
Yeah, so I'm super excited. I go to boot camp in the summer of 2005, and I go to the Navy and Marine Corps Intelligence Training Center.
That's at Dam Neck, Virginia, right?
At Dam Neck, Virginia, that's right. And I show up, and I'm a PFC, and I remember I'm looking at the building, and there's no windows. Everything, it's just walled off, and I'm thinking as an 18-year-old kid, this is going to be cool. I can't wait. Flash forward a few weeks. The cool subjects of learning never occurred. It's like, this is how we read a map, and we're going to pretend this 29 Palms map is Iran, and we're going to spend the next couple weeks coloring it, because this is part of our MACU. It's part of IPB, and I'm thinking, I don't think this is as cool as I thought it was going to be.
So let me stop you. A couple of acronyms you threw out there, MACU and IPB. Let's just talk about that for 1 second.
Oh, so an IPB is the intelligence preparation of the battle space. So it's a basic planning process that all Intel Marines learn when they go through the NMITC, and it's a process that these Marines are going to learn to support, and it's a staff process of that unit.
And the MACU is an overlay that basically shows things like go, no-go terrain and all kinds of other data, right? So you were coloring on cellophane on top of a map.
Annotating, this is where bridges are, and because of the distance between these two mountains, this is the size unit that can maneuver through it. And as an 18-year-old, I didn't really understand much of that. And I was like, this
what
is
he wanted was a shoe phone.
Yeah, I didn't get the shoe phone.
Where's my cyanide tooth?
This is how you do country briefs.
A lot of briefing in the Intel, huh?
A lot of briefing. It was the first time I've ever been exposed to any type of briefing of that sort. And
Far cry from public speaking when you were going to high school and you had to stand up and do a book report, right?
If they did it at all. You think about that.
You're right. And it's completely different, especially with those instructors there who were yelling and throwing things at you.
Who were your instructors, just out of curiosity?
So there was a Sergeant Jones, Sergeant Hopkins, and a Staff Sergeant Alwyn.
Okay, I know them all.
Yeah. Great instructors. Funny story about Sergeant Hopkins. When we were learning how to do debriefs, and they're trying to role play, because Marines love to role play, as this is their, an infantryman that you're gonna debrief after a patrol in Iraq, and he would chew off the top of a Coke can in the middle of the debrief, and as an 18-year-old, I'm just like, why is he doing this?
Literally,
like he's trying to rip the top off it so he could spit in it.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
awesome.
So yeah, very distracting. And at times, like, is this what I have to expect? Like, is every grunt
Yes.
going to chew the top off a can during a debrief?
Probably.
Among other things.
Yeah. So
You know what the Earth pigs want, right?
what's that?
They just want to know what's over the next hill.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't care about what weapons and foreign weapons and Russian weapons. Just tell me what's over there. I'll go and kill it.
Yeah.
Higher up, obviously not. But when you're briefing, company level shit, that's all they care about.
Yeah. So you went to 1-6.
Yep.
So was that exactly what you were doing? Were you doing company level shit?
Yeah, so right after in school, I went to 1st Battalion, 6th Marines. And back then, the company level intelligence teams wasn't a thing yet. It wasn't like a doctrinal term. It wasn't something we were training for. But we were initially putting Marines there to learn how to better integrate with the company and provide that intelligence support. So I spent some time with both Bravo and Charlie companies, during our workup for the deployment, and it was kind of like that, right? I'm learning how to do debriefs, and in the scenario, provide them, and they're just like, just tell me where to go and shoot, boss.
Yep.
Yeah. So I had a great time at 1-6.
Built good relationships there, I'm sure. 2 deployments, you said?
Right.
Where'd you guys go?
So in September of 2006, we went to Ramadi, Iraq. And then right after that, we turned and burned for a MEU deployment. So we trained as a 24th MEU. We were all looking forward to floating around, the Atlantic and around Europe. And unfortunately, we flew to Afghanistan in 2008.
Nice.
A boat with wings.
Nice. So you did a MEU deployment, but you flew into country.
That's right.
That's crazy. You didn't get any seat time at all.
I got a little bit,
Poor sucker.
We went from Virginia to North Carolina. We did a beach landing in the middle of December, and but that
was all part of your workup, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep. So, Intel guys brief a lot. That seems to be, there's a lot of interface with the folks out there. So I thought I'd tell you a quick story about when Sal first started out as an intel officer. Second Lieutenant Salerno, I just got assigned my first task as a new officer. It was to brief and it was an exercise, but it was called Millennial Challenge. And you can look it up. It's an interesting experience because it was a really big exercise. A lot of people involved, 60 locations, synthetic geography. Again, we're, looking at a fictitious country but overlaid on a real country, right? So we had real places, all the geography, so we had a lot of briefing. We had to explain all that stuff to people. So I had my work cut out for me to lay this out for the wing general, right? As an air intel officer, my first job, brief the wing general on this huge exercise. So day of, I've been prepping. The best way to overcome being nervous about briefing things is to be prepared and make sure you got all your equipment right?
MIQC.
And know your material.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I was ready to go, and I get there. This beautiful, huge general officers conference room, big wooden oak, conference table, leather-bound books, the rich smell of mahogany, all that great stuff, right? And all these colonels, all these the general himself, all these GS 14 and above, like contractors, all these companies were coming in to support it. So tons of very, influential people. And then Lieutenant Salerno going to brief all this intel stuff. I had about 60 slides. I had about an hour.
Too many slides.
A lot of
Well, it was
slides.
a lot of maps. It was a lot of maps. You're trying to show people how the synthetic geography lined up and all that stuff. So, it's my turn to go. And the G3 is going to introduce me. And as he's getting ready to as he's standing up and starting to introduce me, I realize I didn't bring my laser pointer. My laser pointer is back at the shop, and I'm like, I'm distraught because a lot of what I need to do is show things on maps. So this is going to suck without it. So I look, and right next to me where he was sitting, he left a laser pointer. It was a weird little space pen looking guy. I'd never seen one like it before, but I formulated a plan, and I said, I'm going to grab that as I stand up, and that's exactly what I did. I grabbed a little laser pointer. I stood up. As he was introducing me, it was perfect. Everything was going to go smooth as silk. And so we'll start out with two. It'll be Lieutenant Salerno who's going to brief you, sir, on the exercise layout. I stand up, I say, good morning, sir, I'm Lieutenant Salerno, and I go, next slide, I say, sir, the synthetic geography is going to work like this, and I go and I hit the laser pointer, and nothing happens. So I look at it, and there's 3 buttons. I flip it over and I push the other button. Nothing happens. And then I look at it again and I push the third button and the battery compartment opens and batteries and springs and shit fly out all over the table. and the the show has begun, right? So I like bunch everything up on the table and I go. So as you can see, General, he goes, stop. I'm like, crap. He goes, I am a pilot. So lasing me in the eyes with your laser is not a great plan for my future. So please don't do that anymore. Okay. Secondly, and probably more important for you right now, this couldn't have been any worse. So you have nowhere left to go but up. Please continue. So that was my introduction to briefing in the wing was the general and my calamity of freaking laser pointer ridiculousness.
Oh man, you know what I thought you were gonna say is that it was one of those laser pointers that had the little shape in it, like like you get funny. Like a I don't know, maybe it was like it was part of like
face,
happy face, and you go like, well, sir, and like that happy face is on the screen.
Which would have been perfect, by the way.
Yeah, that would have been if I had ever gotten it working now. But the reality was, I don't know what the heck the thing was. I'd never seen one like it before or since. Yeah, it set me up pretty good. It was like a trap. So how about briefing? You have any experiences or any?
Oh yeah, a lot of experiences briefing. When I started out at 1-6, after learning, briefing techniques at the Nimitzi, and we go to Fort AP Hill for one of the battalion's exercises. So I'm with headquarters and support company, and I'm getting ready to do a simple weather brief to the OPSO and the rest of the staff. And what I failed to do as an intel guy is explain the effects and what does the weather actually mean to the command? Is it going to affect any troops? Is it going to affect anything? All I did was like, well, sir, the high is going to be 70. The low is probably going to be around 55. I don't think we're going to get rain until the next 2 days, and that's it. That's all I have. And then he proceeds to chew my butt right there in front of me, explaining. It's like, who cares if it's 70 degrees? I don't care.
Yeah.
Explain to me, how is this going to affect friendly operations?
Yeah.
And since then, it stuck with me. And I needed that type of check, just to realize realize you're not just a weatherman. You're not here to brief simple weather patterns.
You talk about briefs and funny things, and you've done a joint tour, and Sean, you have as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have noticed that in the Marine Corps, we tend to send guys about 4 pay grades below everybody else.
Yeah, what is that?
Well, the Air Force, if a general's getting briefed, the Air Force will minimum send a full bird colonel.
Yeah.
The Navy does the same thing. Here comes, Captain Kelly.
Lieutenant Salerno.
Yeah, walking in. And I've seen this before. When I was at SOCUR, and a couple of times I walked in, I was briefing like an admiral. It's like, they don't say anything.
Yep.
But they just look. And you stand up, okay, now, SOCUR's going to... And the colonel will tell me down at SOCUR, Keith, I need you to run up, Heidelberg and run this brief for me. Nah, I didn't care.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew what I was doing. I prepped, I briefed, I walked in. And then it got to be a joke with me. Like, I can't wait to see their faces this time.
Right.
The Army guys especially be pissed.
Yeah.
I don't know why they'd be pissed, but you could tell from the looks on their faces, who's this little punk?
Yeah.
I'd give the brief and Joe, that was a great brief. Thanks, Keith. And wander away, but it's a Marine thing, and I don't know why or where. Maybe because we don't have enough.
And that's very true because briefing at an infantry battalion, I thought I got used to it there, and using the language that's appropriate for in between if I'm briefing company or battalion staff, or I'm briefing the platoon.
Yeah.
And years following my tour at 1-6, I'd go to Mar 4 PAC, and I went from the G2, and here's Sergeant Basile briefing a 3-star general, his 1-star deputy, and a table full of colonels.
Right.
And I'm briefing him on strategic issues within all of PACOM.
Right.
And at the time, I'm like, I'm just a sergeant.
Belay the F-bombs.
Yeah. A well-read sergeant.
And meanwhile, the guy who followed you was probably an Air Force colonel.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I have a similar story when I was on the MEU to your weather story because we were briefing weather effects, but it wasn't quite what the boss wanted that day. And so he literally made us all stay. He goes, everybody get up. We're on the ship, down in the bows, and getting in the briefing room. Everybody stand up, follow me, and we start the fucking parade marching through the ship up the ladder wells. He gets us up onto the flight deck. He gathers the staff around him at the side of the ship, and he goes, "I want to go there." what's the weather going to be like? I think he was bored, to be honest with you. It's true, like that. You got to take it beyond reporting facts and take it into assessment, right? You got to take it into what the impact is going to be on whatever it is that's going on.
Know the audience.
And know the audience.
Yeah. Well, that's a big part of it. We laugh about that when we talk about public speaking, but it's the same thing here. You know, I know what the Earth Pig wants, but on the other hand, fast forward now on OPSO, and the intel guy who was on First Recon is a buddy of mine. And I go down to John, this is what I want. Now, the companies don't want that. They want something else, and the colonel may want something else too, but I'm trying to do ops. I'm trying to plan ops.
Yeah.
And so so good intel guys are very quick on their feet, and they can morph into that.
Yeah, and it takes some time to get used to it because, you know, as a young intel professional, just learning the job, and while you're groomed to understand you got to brief the effects, if you don't put yourself in ops shoes, you're not going to truly understand, you know, how to improve. Because if you put yourself in their shoes, like, and you just get told, hey, the high is going to be 70, the low is going to be 55, you'll quickly realize, okay, this is why this information is not supporting us. We need to understand because there's going to be effects to air support, there could be effects to UAS support, lift,
UAS,
our movement there,
visibility for sniper teams and things like that.
And sometimes they don't have the info. I mean, really, and that, you know, you got to prep these guys for the expectations. I mean, Desert Storm, again, I was still the OPSO, and my buddy, who had the map that was like the size of this room, he kept putting little red things on it. Little artillery things, little tank things, every day, because then he's getting intel. I'm like, John, what is it? That's a regiment artillery. What's that one? It's a little bigger. That's a division of artillery. What? And he just kept putting them up and putting them up. I'm like, well, now what do we do? I don't know. They just keep giving me this information, Keith. What do you want from me? Like, and the map's getting worse and worse. And they started building a second belt that's getting worse and worse. I'm like, oh, my God. The expectation, I mean, the only expectation was we're going north. And we got to figure out how to punch a hole through that mess. And the intel guys were doing everything they could, but it just kept piling up. I felt bad for them because guys are like taking it out on John because the Iraqis kept building these belts upon belts.
Well, it's interesting you bring up that point. I don't know that they were building it. It was probably because intel's not instantaneous. Right?
Yes.
You develop understanding of things as you study it, right? So the longer the time goes on, the greater the understanding. So in the initial phases of something, like you may be operating in the dark.
Yeah,
largely,
exactly.
until you start to employ various techniques and equipment maybe and people that are going to allow you to gather some new information.
Well, let me ask you a question, Sean. You think it reminded me of something though. Desert Storm's a perfect example. We're still in Desert Shield mode, aka Panty Shield. It was a secret name. So we keep moving every 24 hours. We're hopping and hopping and hopping and hopping and hopping. He's trying to keep up with Division Main as they're feeding information down to him. And I'm still poking him in the eye every morning. John, I need this, I need this, I need this. How do you do that? I mean, seriously, I mean, we're tearing down comms every 24 hours.
Well, fortunately for me, I was born as an intel guy in the age of technology, so it's a matter of saving the file and then like, all right, I'm ready to go. I don't have to tear anything down.
No carrier pigeons involved.
Coming into the Marine Corps in 05, I often think about, I was like, how did people intel back, during the Gulf War, during World War II? You just think about how complicated things are, having technology on our side, and the benefits that it brings. I can only imagine the difficulties in tracking, conducting collections management, and just recording all of that data.
Well, it's funny. It's funny because, in the old days, you either got a guy who was really good at it or wasn't, and so Intel got a reputation as being like hit or miss, or not that great, right? So you think about Intel. This is across services too. It's not just the Marine Corps, right? But as technology advanced and as our ability to collect information and store information advanced, we got better at it. In the old days, you literally just read messages. And the older you got, some of those messages came by hand, via courier. But then once radio started to happen, you started getting some of that stuff over the radio. But it was reading message traffic and plotting maps, man, and that was basically it. And then trying to anticipate based on what we learn in school, which is history and intent and capability, and those things added together kind of give you an idea of where to sort of shake the magic 8 ball and go, I think they're going to come over the hill tomorrow.
I knew you sons of bitches had an 8 ball. I knew it.
Yeah, so it's tough. It's a tough business. But I think the idea that it takes time to develop understanding is something that could be beneficial for commanders to understand when you first get to a new AO or something like that. If you don't realize that it takes time for your intel section to develop, some amount of understanding of what's going on.
Yeah.
And to be patient with that and to have some tactical patience as they develop.
If there's no turnover between units in a certain given area, definitely so. During my 2008 Afghanistan deployment, our MU, we were part of Operation Azadawosa. So most of the MU, most of the BLT, we were in Kandahar, and the mission for the MU was to reestablish FOB Rhino, which was a base that was decommissioned earlier on in the war, and it was located near the Pakistani-Afghan border. So the mission for the MU was to, secure Garmser so that the logistics guys can drive their convoys from the northern side of Helmand Province to FOB Rhino and reestablish the base. Azadawosa was part of the mission to secure Garmser. So there was no infantry battalion in Garmser. So the BLT flew in, and we also drove in. We established our C2 node, and the line companies began securing Garmser. However, again, like you mentioned, there's no handoff. Our understanding of the Taliban forces in the area was very little because there was the only forces there was the UK guys.
Yeah.
So human networks aren't developed, right? SIGINT is just trying to get established. OSINT wasn't even an option for us, right? We didn't have the lines.
OSINT is open source intelligence, right? So using the internet,
right,
radio,
just
television,
something in that area,
local newspaper, whatever it is. Yeah.
So there's a big expectation on the this intelligence section to provide the battalion commander and the company commanders on what the enemy situation is. And I can tell you firsthand, it was very difficult.
Sure.
Because we just got there. Right, it took a lot. It took time for our human guys to get established. To utilize the debriefs from the companies.
Sure.
That was a huge source of information. But it was very difficult to initially. But once we had those networks in place, it was a little easier from there.
So, Sean, if you would talk a little bit about that relationship that you had to develop with the guys that you were debriefing. So you got your Earth Pigs going out doing patrols and coming back. How long did it take you, or did you already have an established relationship with those guys? So was it easy or difficult, or how was that for your section?
So at that time frame, we had about 2 to 3 guys for each company who were O3s, and they were designated as the intel reps. And luckily for us, this is again right before the Marine Corps, really transitioned with the company level intelligence teams, where we'd have an O231 at the company level, and we had a very small S2 shop. It was our intelligence officer, a chief, and we had 4 to 5 analysts with us. So we didn't have enough to put one at all the companies. And
that's norm.
Yeah.
Right. But nowadays the infantry battalion S2s are much larger than that. Right. So it took time in our deployment workup to train these guys on getting debriefs. And we had a really good TTP where when these guys were going on these patrols, we were getting the debriefs emailed to us. And that was a huge source of intelligence information for us.
So you're getting real time.
Yeah,
from the Earth Pigs.
Oh yeah. By the end of the day, whatever patrols they were going on, they was providing that, and that was another way that we were trying to better understand and hunt the human terrain of Garmser and just understand, what is the local populace in this area, who favors the Taliban, where's the Taliban actually hiding at.
But that being said, at the end of the day, when they're done with that patrol, you're still doing a debrief when they come back in the wire, right?
Oh yeah.
That's. It's a big deal. I get a hard on for it. I always have. That's a very important piece. So I'm glad that didn't go away because you're getting real time. I got everything. I'm good. No. So talk a little bit about that when they come back in the wire.
Yeah, so for 3 of the companies, they're in Garmser, so all of their debriefs were happening by those intel reps. But weapons company was on the base with us, so a lot of times they would come back and then they would link up to us, and we had a standard debrief format. And these guys were very used to this process. This is the same guys, group of guys since that 06 Iraq deployment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was, for me, it wasn't troubling at all getting all these details. It was just was routine work. Understandably, these guys are also guys that were out all day conducting this patrol. The last thing they want to do is sit down.
That's right. They don't want to do it.
No, but they were awesome about it, and they understood, how important it was for us to get this information, because it's going to feed right back into that future operation.
That's right.
Yeah.
So ultimately, as we started this series on Intel, like we talked with Lieutenant Colonel Derryberry, he was saying that ultimately the goal for us in the intelligence community is to reduce uncertainty for the commander. And the commander could be that patrol leader, or it could be the 4-star running a combatant command, but each level requires an intel section that will then sort of develop the situation and try to reduce some of that uncertainty for them. So how was that for you in tanks? Because that seems like pretty straightforward kind of unit. It's kind of like the Air Wing. Like they probably needed you to do security clearances and stay out of their way.
Yeah, it was interesting being at tanks. Moving from an infantry battalion where I'm humping with all of the grunts, right, making these long movements, carrying a heavy ruck, and then moving to tank battalion where they're like, we don't hump.
You want to bring a grill?
We pack everything on this tank and then we roll out.
Weight bench tied to the turret, plates all over the side. Yeah, I've seen that show.
Yep.
So I unfortunately I didn't get an opportunity to deploy with tanks and to kind of actually support them with that. But I did go on a few exercises with them, and it was interesting. But it was the same basic style support, to the commander, which is in the form of mainly weather at the time to support their exercises.
Yeah. And then I would think they don't have too much of a concern for cross-country mobility, but some.
Right, some, because for one, they don't want to throw a track and end up, really deep in the mud, and then they got to get a wrecker involved and pull those tanks out.
It's ugly.
And that seems like a.
Have you ever seen that happen?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's ugly. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's another big concern. So while you'd think tanks they can go through anywhere,
who knew?
They want to avoid real deep pockets of mud.
Sure. Yeah, they get stuck. So what you were doing primarily like order of battle kind of work there, where you're just evaluating the enemy in this exercise to determine where they were and what the composition was, or what?
Yeah, it was something like that. They had a very light scenario on their movement, general threat. So to help me get any type of training out of that, it was to provide these, enemy situation briefs to the commander. That way they could, get me involved in the staff process. They could let me know, what his priorities are for collection. And then I could kind of exercise that. And it's like, okay, this is what the commander views as priority. I could work this into my collection plan. And while in the scenarios there wasn't a lot of collection involved, we could kind of, made it work.
So then, Sean, you had the opportunity to do some work over at MARSOC as an intel guy.
That's right.
So I thought maybe you'd talk a little bit about your experience there.
Yeah. So I came...
And maybe also explain to people if they were interested in maybe pursuing going to MARSOC, how that might work for an intel guy.
Yeah, so I decided in late 2012, after I was near completing my tour at Mar Fort Pack, to go to MARSOC. I had a few friends there already, and they were telling me all about it, and they were telling me the amount of intelligence support that they're providing at that command. And I was very excited, especially since I spent 3 years at a MAR 4 away from the deploying forces. It was time for me to get back into it, and what better way to do it than with a Marine Special Operations Command? I already did it at an infantry battalion level, so I just felt like this was taking it to another level of support. So I got there, and I've been here for about 6 years so far, and I've gone on 2 deployments, and both experiences I've gone out as the direct support team. That's the name they give the intelligence team that's supporting a Marine Special Operations company as their intelligence chief, and it has been an amazing experience by far.
Great.
And then, so how about some advice for anybody who might be watching that's thinking about it but isn't sure whether they want to go do a MARSOC tour or not?
Yeah, so I talk a lot of Marines, and I try to gain, and judge, what do they know about MARSOC? Because surprisingly, a lot of some Marines don't know. But if you are interested, I highly recommend going to the official MARSOC webpage, contact the Special Operations Capability Specialist, a SOCS recruiter, and put in a package. A lot of Marines are concerned with, I'll have to have a 300 PFT score, and I'll have to be an excellent swimmer and have to be an excellent rucker.
Yeah.
I tell those Marines, look, we could make you stronger and faster over time.
Yeah.
What we need are Marines that have the intellect to want to do this job, that have a passion for intelligence.
Yeah.
If you have that passion for intelligence work, the PT will come easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's perfect. Sean, thanks a lot. It was
Yep.
really great having you here today, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.
Yep. Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
guys having me.
Yeah.